Metro Exodus is probably my favourite first-person shooter in a long time, but should you buy it? Let's find out. Metro Exodus is a first-person shooter set in a post-apocalyptic world where Russia was nuked, basically, and everyone was forced underground. This is also a sequel to Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, but it goes in a much different direction compared to those previous games. In Metro Exodus, you play as Artyom, the same character as the previous games, but this time he is focused on finding a way out of the underground. The underground is where everyone lived because of a nuke, so you can avoid radiation and live happily ever after in train tunnels, basically, which isn't great, to be honest. And Artyom is focused on finding a civilization outside of the underground because he thinks there is a place out there that isn't affected by radiation. Metro Exodus is all about the immersion factor. The amount of care that went into making sure that you feel like you're in this world, that you can spend 10 to 15 hours without a break in this world is just outstanding. From the simple animations of wiping your mask when it gets too muddy or wet, to the animations of your gun firing, with the recoil being so impactful, with the sound design being so just orgasmic in many ways. It's simply incredible what they managed to achieve here. I mean, I could say the same thing about Last Light, only this time it's been, you know, Last Light released in 2013 and Exodus released in 2019, and that time gap did really prove really fruitful for the franchise. Let's start with the story and then we'll move on to the gameplay, but no spoilers. Don't worry guys, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Metro Exodus' story, as I mentioned, is about a person going out to find civilization, but that's the most basic aspect of it. Metro Exodus is all about the people, about humanity, about survival, about what it means to be human in a lot of aspects. Sure, you could focus on the apocalyptic aspect of it, about people trying to survive, but there's so much more to it. There are so many moments where you just slow down in Exodus. You surround yourself by the characters you've met. Whether it's people hanging around a campfire to just relax and talk, or whether it's someone playing music and you just relax there for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not kidding, they put so much emphasis on you living in this world. It really shows how much passion and care went into this game. It doesn't feel like it needs to throw you into a giant set piece every 5 seconds. In fact, there's not many set pieces, but when those set pieces come, my god is it. It's cool. It's really cool.
Artyom, let's jump!
So yeah, you focus on multiple characters, from Artyom, who gets his little moments in his loading screens. Artyom is voiceless unless you're in a loading screen. That is a weird aspect I will touch on in just a minute.
Am I bothering you? Sorry, I'm in a philosophical mood today.
Wanna cry?
But there's also characters like Anna, characters like Miller, and a few others that I won't spoil. There's a lot of characters to spoil in this because they weren't in the original 2 games. But every character gets a moment to shine, and it all works right up to that beautiful ending. Now, that saying, I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but the ending mission is incredible, but the ending itself is really anticlimactic for me, but that's because of the pacing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So throughout this game, you're going to be going to different locations. There's like 3 different major locations throughout the game, all set in different areas of the map that are all visually diverse. So you got one that's set in like a swampy area, that's your beginning basically, and you've got places in the sand, and you've got other places that are more luscious with forests and, you know, greenery everywhere, that's showing that things are surviving despite the impacts of nuclear warfare, which is, you know, insane to think about. But with each area, something new comes in with the story, whether it's a new perspective on survival, if it's a new perspective on human surviving in general, you know what I mean? And it all comes together in this beautiful ending that is more philosophical rather than practical. The ending mission, you're not really shooting anything unless you really want to. It's all psychological, it's all in Artyom's brain, and it all comes together. It would be really helpful to play the previous 2 games, but it's not a necessity. But each section just builds up this idea of where this story's going, and it may not flip it on its head, but it does enough to make you think, Okay, wow, this went in a different direction than I expected. All in all, while the story isn't the most genre-breaking or genre-defining, it does what it needs to do, and it does it really well. And I can't wait to see where the studio takes the series next with this in terms of narrative, because I don't know where they can go with gameplay-wise unless they go multiplayer, because my god, the gameplay is so good, but let's talk about it. If you are enjoying this video, smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. The gameplay of Metro Exodus is where it shines the most. Everything just builds this world element to it. It's beautiful. Every animation has a reason to be there. Whether you walk into a river and your mask gets dirty, you can wipe it off with an animation. That's not new. It was in Metro Last Light, but it's still here, and it adds just another element to everything whenever it comes to immersion or difficulty in some sense. Every weapon feels like it has a personality to it. Every recoil pattern, every sound, it's so much care went into this game. It's beyond belief in my opinion. It's very rare we get FPS games like this, especially FPS single player focused games, okay? Everything is battle royale, everything's multiplayer right now, so to get a single player experience like this, maybe clouding my opinion on it because it's been so long since I've played an FPS game like this. But it's just beautiful. But every area has an aesthetic, every area has specific enemies, every area has specific places to explore, specific items to unlock, and it gives you a reason to play it. You ever feel like when you're playing a game and you're just going through the motions, like I don't know, you've got a checklist that you've got to complete to unlock a specific weapon. That isn't here. You're going to explore every area on this map to unlock a specific item that you didn't even know existed till you unlocked it. It's beautifully done. It's wonderful, because you don't even have to follow the story. You don't need to explore every area on the map, but you kind of just do it instinctively, because you're just exploring, you're chilling, you're finding all these air filters to keep your gas mask going while you're up on the surface, and it just adds so much there's just so many more layers to it compared to your average first-person shooter. But along with that is your gunplay. The gunplay is fantastic. There are multiple enemies, so enemy variety is just off the chain right now. Every area you go to, there's a new enemy to face. Sure, some of them share aspects of the previous enemies you've faced, but they're all different, they're all unique, they all have different move sets, and every weapon feels different as well. And along with every weapon, you get to customize those weapons with sights, barrels, magazines, all sorts, so you never get bored. And while you're doing all of this, your companions interact with you, building this connection to them for the inevitable ending that you have to face. And it's just wonderfully paced, it's wonderfully created, it's wonderfully designed, but it's not flawless. Sometimes the AI are pretty stupid. I tell you what, despite how good Metro Last Light is, I didn't play Metro 2033, despite how good Metro Last Light is, the AI was an issue. The AI just wasn't that smart, and the same issue is still here in Exodus. That being said, it's not as bad as Last Light, because in the forest section, it's a much linear section. You're going through this island, you're going a one-way direction, you've got to get to the other side of the island. And the AI seem to be way more capable of communicating with each other, because in the open world, you can explore it, but the sections you find are much smaller, so the AI really doesn't have much of a chance to be dynamic, because you're constantly shooting them and taking them out before they can even get a chance to communicate. But on the island, they really start to communicate, and that's where the AI really comes out, and it shows you how much care got put into it. But unfortunately, the rest of the game suffers because it is semi-open world. They're separated, there's no connection to it. That does kind of suck, but honestly, as a nip, that's pretty much a nitpick now, because the rest of the game is just pitch perfect. You get these linear sections that I can't really talk about without spoiling too much, but everything comes together, and the gameplay just merges with the story beautifully, and it's just one of those rare occasions where you're just like, wow. But along with that, you get customization, as I've mentioned. You got unlockables if you explore the right areas. And of course, you've got multiple difficulties, so you can play it multiple times with higher difficulties and kind of experiencing the more horror focused stuff if you play on a higher difficulty. And that's about it. I think you can tell what I'm about to say, but yes, you should absolutely buy it. I mean, if you haven't played 2033 or Last Light, I haven't played 2033 myself. I want to go play that, but I played Last Light, so if you play Last Light and go to Exodus, you're still going to get a great experience. If you don't play Last Light at all and you go to Exodus, you're still going to get a great experience, because they world build so beautifully and so well. It just, you know, it's amazing. It really is amazing. It's one of those games that you've got to experience at some point. So yeah, I absolutely think you should buy it. Buy it, please guys, do it. Absolutely do it if you get a chance. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and remember to keep it classic.